Wrestling Radio Show. I'm your host, Jordan Tom, followed with my co-host, Brian Rowan. And tonight's guest, he's entering his third year coaching at Army, second year as the associate head coach. He had prior head coaching roles at Wisconsin Whitewater and Heidelberg University in Ohio. He also was an assistant at Augsburg as well as experience with the Minnesota Storm. Personally, he wrestled at the University of Iowa from 2000 to 2005, where he was a 4-year letter winner and a 3-time Big Ten Academic All-American. Tonight's guest, none other than Ned Shuck. Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Good.
Good. I'm excited about this one. We've been talking about having an assistant coach for a while, but we've a bunch of people wanted to get on the show, so it's nice to get one of the coaches on again.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of great people to choose from. So yeah, I'm honored to be with you guys today. So,
well, let's jump in. So it's my understanding, Coach, that you are the master recruiter. That's a large portion of what you do and bring to the team, in addition to obviously a bunch of other great stuff. But can you talk to us about just the current landscape of recruiting and how COVID's affected and what that's going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the COVID stuff has obviously made a shift and change in our approaches. Obviously, I love, being able to get out there and see all these guys, compete firsthand and get a chance to talk with them face to face and, be in thetheir homes and, all the interaction with them on a face to face basis is, what I love to do. But yeah, without the ability to do that, things have changed a little bit. So you're doing a lot more, the phone call stuff, the text, the Zoom chats, trying to connect with them and share the message about all the excitement that's going on here at West Point and, kind of dive into, who they are and what they're looking for and, hopefully find a great match for both parties. And so, yeah, it's created definitely some challenges. We love having people here on campus, it's, you can't go wrong showing around West Point. It's just an absolutely amazing place. And so, not having that opportunity is it's kind of a downer, but yeah, man, we're gonna keep moving forward.
Unique times for sure.
You guys having back-to-back, 7 qualifiers to NCAA's, last 2 years, it sets a high bar. I think, recruits probably recognize that and they know the expectations coming to the program. So I'm sure they're excited. That helps a lot too.
Yeah, it sure does. Obviously, everybody likes to be, part of a winning team and have that success, and so like you said, having a couple of years like we've just had, obviously, it's been a good process. Coach Ward's under his tenure, has continued to climb and with the last 2 years being our best. And so it's been a lot of fun. You're right. Recruits see that, they want to be a part of that. And it's exciting to be exposed to the level they will in our program, having the success that we have and being able to wrestle the teams that we have and knocking off some Big Ten teams and Big 12 teams and all that. It's been eye-catching, I think, for a lot of recruits to see what we're doing here.
Yeah, definitely. So taking it back now to, the start of your, college wrestling at Iowa, I'm sure that had to be, an amazing experience. Walk us through a little bit how you ended up at Iowa. Maybe share a funny story, something you wouldn't expect from the Iowa room. That 2000-2005 window, there's some real studs there.
I would say it's probably the most non-traditional way that you could possibly think about showing up at a school. Ultimately, my first exposure was really just led to a camp that I happened to get a flyer from a coach at the time that was kind of elevating his career, and I happened to go down to the camp when I was the summer of my 8th grade year, and I listened to Dan Gable talk, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is everything I've been looking for. Like everything that I didn't know what I was missing. I was like, all right, this is it. That's what I found. And so from there, I continued to go to their camps throughout every summer really, and so that was a lot of fun. But ultimately, my decision to go there, was rooted at, way back then, in 8th grade, and I realized this is what I'm looking for. But yeah, obviously, like you said, there was a lot of hammers, on the teams back then, and some incredible coaches. It was just kind of awestruck for me just to think back, like, wow, holy cow, look at all these people that, you know, were involved in the program while I was there. And it's no secret for me that I've you know, I've pulled a lot from them. I just, you know, I've learned a lot from all those people that I wrestled with on a day-to-day basis, you know, learn from as, you know, from the coach's standpoint, and all that. So, you know, in terms of a funny story, I mean, there's definitely a few for me, you know, kind of going along the lines of, you know, my start to Iowa. Like I said, I was totally non-traditional, so I was a walk-on there. I didn't, you know, receive scholarship money up front, and ultimately, you know, I just showed up, you know, kind of, and I let them know I was going to be walking on and whatnot, but I just showed up and I'd be working out, you know, came in there to work out every morning because, you know, I was just pretty naive. I was a really hard-working kid and just thought that that's what everybody did. Everybody shows up at the, you know, at Carver at 6 a.m. and works out. The whole team will be there, you know, and the preseason and well, come find out the whole team was, you know, work out. There's definitely guys that were there working out, but Joe Williams happened to be one of the coaches on staff. Obviously, was an absolute monster, 3-time national champion, Olympian, all that good stuff. You know, but I just remember him coming up to me one day. I didn't have a partner. I was working the Adam dummy, you know. So I got done with the lift, and I was like, all right, I'm going to work the Adam dummy here a little bit. There's nobody in there to drill with. And he kind of just walks up to me, and, you know, it'd been probably at that time 2 weeks. He had no idea probably who I was. And he just kind of came up to me. He's like, hey, you're going to come in here every morning? I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that was, you know, that's the plan. And he was like, all right, well, let's get you drilling with somebody, you know. Like, yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great, you know. So it was definitely a different, you know, approach to coming into a program that, you know, most probably recruited blue chip athletes would have got, you know, coming to the program. But yeah, so, you know, and actually his brother was probably one of my favorite, you know, moments now looking back at it. You know, TJ Williams, who, you know, not very many people know, but he only had one loss in college, you know, and, you know, was a 2-time champ, and just, he was just a monster too. But I specifically remember my freshman year, like, you know, hey, we kind of lined up partners, whatever, and, you know, we got, hey, we'll go together. Yeah, so we're going to be partners, drill, did the whole thing, warm up for practice. But it was one of those ones, like, you know, one of my favorite type of practice, to be honest with you, was coach just said, hey, you know, we're going to get warmed up, you know, as soon as you guys are ready to, you know, go live, you know, shake hands and, you know, take a break when your partner needs it, you know. And so, you know, it was one of the things I kind of prided myself on. I'm not going to need a break, you know, that type of deal. And so I happened to be partnered with TJ Williams. We didn't wrestle a whole lot together. He was 57-pounder, and at that time was 41, 49. But I remember distinctly thinking, all right, you know, dude's, you know, got a couple national championships. Is, you know, is really good. I'm like, in my mind, for whatever reason, probably wasn't the smartest thing, but I made the decision that I was going to have to bring some heavy hands. I was going to have to bring them hard, you know. Like, so, you know, we kind of bouncing around, you know, slap hands, and you know, I just remember specifically like winding up, like, you know, like just going to bring them a hard collar tie, you know, just wham, and just, you know, hit him real hard, you know. And from my standpoint, I thought it was really hard, you know. And you know, he was in a stance and his head moved about this much. And I was like, all right, then. This is going to be a long road. This is going to be a long practice. And so, yeah, let's just say he had his way. You know, whatever he wanted to do, he was able to do, no problem. But
I instantly
yeah, there's a lot
that.
of yeah, exactly. There was a lot of good times and some incredible people. A lot of my teammates are, you know, coaching now. You know, Bill Zadek was one of my individual coaches, who's obviously now the, you know, head Olympic team coach. And yeah, just was blessed to be around some really cool people.
Was one of those seasons the year that they did the documentary at the ESPN?
Yeah, it was. You know, probably like the worst year ever that they could have possibly recorded and followed that. But yeah, so that was one of those seasons. I was
Yep.
When you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, maybe the year that that documentary aired, and maybe let's go back and watch that. I was just.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of breakout moments in there. You can see me on a pull-up bar with a little fuller beard than this right now and some longer hair. You know, kind of let it rock a little bit in college. So
done. I'll go back and watch it. So you talked about how you learned a lot of lessons at Iowa, obviously, and a lot of your fellow teammates are coaches now. What's maybe some of those lessons that you learned, and is it from a wrestling standpoint? Is it like a coaching standpoint? And how does that translate to now you're in a program that's similar and maybe like our style, but vastly different as far as institution?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Obviously, you entrust yourself to the people around you, and I've connected well with the coaches who were there, and so I did. Yeah, I learned a lot. I just mentioned Bill Zadek. He's just one of those guys that for me as my individual coach, the guy I was drilling with on a consistent basis, working out with in the morning, and something that it was just really nothing that he necessarily said or did, but it was everything that he said and did just really showed me that he cared. He was going to do whatever it takes to help me and support me, and basically just loved me up, and showed me that hey, he cared most about who I was as a man, and wanted to help me kick ass in the man. And so ultimately that was really cool. Just having that kind of connection, especially with somebody at his level of success that he had. Being national champion, being one of the top guys in the country on a consistent basis, and then going on obviously to win a world title was really cool. From the coaching side of things, I learned from everybody. Lincoln McElroy was there, Joe Williams was there. I don't know if I learned anything from Royce Alger or not. He but no, he was always he always found a way to bring some humor to the practice room. But obviously, Brandon Gable and Coach Selesky and Troy Steiner and Tim Hartung, those guys were all there too as that transition kind of happened. And so, I just, to be honest with you, like one of my mentalities is when I meet anybody or interact with anybody is how can I suck as much knowledge out of them as I possibly can, and so
Yeah.
That was one of the things that it was just my mentality, no matter who I interacted with. And it was some interesting times during the transition of the coaching staff with Brand's leaving, because I definitely, missed having him around. It was somebody that, I really connected with well. But without a doubt, Gable was instrumental for me just to be able to interact with him and be able to have conversations with him about coaching, because that was something that, I definitely saw in my trajectory. And I was always impressed by just his level of expectation, and that there was really there's no compromise in that. He just really expected you to be the best, and to be the greatest, and to put forth the most effort, and it held you to that in terms of what you did on a consistent basis, not just in the wrestling room, but outside of that too. And so that was something I definitely value. And I remember I tell our guys this all the time, but they just one day at practice, I just remember telling them, I got a weakness here, and he just kind of gave me, you got a what? And I said, you got a weakness. He's like, you don't have any weaknesses, and just wasn't like, he wasn't telling in a joking frame mind, right? It was absolutely 100% certain. And he's like, you might have a lesser strength in that area that we can work on, we're going to build on, But that was just, just the mentality behind him and what he expects out of the people he works with, and how, how he attacks it and how he approaches it and his work ethic behind it. There was a lot to be learned there, and, still is. I still have a lot to learn from him.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I read his books and the different short stories. It's really cool the way he goes about it and shares it. I didn't know. I mean, I was in at that point, obviously, but I was a little too young to understand. Like when he was coaching, you talked a little bit about like you saw that was really the trajectory of your the trajectory of you getting into coaching. Did you know while you were at wrestling at Iowa that you were going to make it a career, or like talk us through you getting into coaching and how how you've stuck with it so long.
Yeah, so obviously the coaching side of things has been a huge passion for a long time. But I think probably not many people knew that I decided I was going to be a coach in 7th grade. I grew up in Minnesota, and so went to school, small town, 1,500 people, and it was just somebody. It was my high school coach, Jeff Soma, and I had some other coaches along the way, Jason Fickett, and Coach Norgren, and we had a bunch of guys that really had a huge impact on my life. But it was really just him showing me that he cared, and coming to my competitions and helping me out. And I knew wrestling was going to be my thing because that's what I was doing really well, was successful at. But once I had the opportunity, I graduated from our youth wrestling program. We had some high schoolers who would occasionally come down to help out. At that time, I decided, hey, at 7th grade, I'm going to be wrestling varsity, and I'm going to be helping out the youth program. And so, after high school practice, I'd help out the youth program every night, coaching with him and learning from him, starting from the get-go. And I knew the impact that he had on me was the impact I would want to have on other people, because I probably wasn't on the greatest path, in elementary school to middle school. I was, I was a lot to handle, I think, for my teachers for a while. And the expectations of my high school coaches really changed my life. And from that standpoint, I knew, hey, I was able to at least see that. For whatever reason, I was able to see what they were doing for me and make that transition to, hey, this is something I want to do, for my life. And so when I was at Iowa, really my path was, I was an elementary education major. I was going to coach, high school wrestling, and I was going to take a program from wherever it was, maybe the bottom, maybe, at the top, and bring it to national power. That was my mindset of where I was going to go. But, and that, that's actually kind of how I started my career, as I get into high school coaching right out of college. But that obviously changed, and I'm, happy it did.
So, okay, run me that back. So you started at high school, so you literally have worked at basically every level, is what you're saying?
Yeah. So, I actually coached. So right after, I graduated Iowa 2005, and then moved back to Minnesota, and I coached in a small suburb-ish, Chaska, Minnesota, of Minneapolis. And so that was, it was really cool. My first 4 years of coaching, I was at the high school level, and it was like the most difficult time and the best time all at the same time. It was really cool. I didn't know at the time that when I took the job that I would have the opportunity to coach with Mike Hauk, who was U.S.'s first Greco-Roman world champion. And he was Olympic coach for 5 years for, down at the Olympic Training Center. He started the residency athlete program, and, just, one of the best coaches, I think, that I've ever met, without a doubt. And I've met a lot of, pretty dang good coaches. And he's my best friend to this day. But he was huge in the development of my coaching. Absolutely. I mean, something I didn't plan just fell in my lap, by the grace of God. And it was a really cool time. And, we got to coach some really cool kids, and some kids that went on to continue their wrestling careers and do some amazing things, and some guys that, went on to do whatever they, their career path took them. And it's still connect with those guys today. And probably most is, Pat Smith has, made a couple world teams in Greco, and, somebody I just talked to today, and somebody that I connect with a lot. But it was a really cool start. We had, not much for a program. The high school team the year before graduated a bunch of guys, and then, we had
That's
kind of
cool.
groundwork start. So it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's pretty unique too, because like you see a lot of the D1 coaches right now are these dudes that have these like stellar college careers, and it's just like, I don't really know what I want to do, and this is all I know, so I'm just gonna go be an assistant coach. And yeah, like they may be good at it because they know wrestling, but it's not necessarily their passion. So to see somebody that literally has done it every single level because it's what they feel like they were put on this earth to do is pretty darn cool. Educate us a little bit on the difference between just D3 and D1. Like I certainly don't know all the ins and outs, and not in great detail, but just like what is the main difference from a wrestling standpoint and, a college experience?
Yeah. To be honest with you, like I'm probably maybe not the norm in this, what I'm going to explain in terms of the comparison between the two. Because I don't think there really is as many differences as a lot of people think there are. And maybe that's just because I spent a good portion of my coaching career in Division III, starting at Augsburg College, where, got a chance to work with some amazing coaches there as well. Jim Osloff and Jared Evans, and got to start at a historic program there that just was cool to kind of be a part of. But, I think the reality behind what the difference is a lot of people's expectations, kind of what I was talking about, what I learned, from Gable. It's like some people expect the Division III to be a lower level of wrestling, and that's what they got then. That's what they expected.
Sure.
You see coaches that thought with that mentality, and those were the coaches that were easy to surpass. But there's also some absolutely phenomenal coaches at the Division III level that have a ton of respect for, and I've learned a lot from too, just from observing or interacting with them. And so from a wrestling standpoint, obviously the resources is the main difference, right? Like this, there was a great tweet thread that just went out about some Division III athletes compared to Division I, and that I looked at that thread and I was literally laying on the floor. I was laughing so hard because what you have to do on that level when you don't have the financial resources, you do whatever it takes. So you're getting really creative, your fundraisers get really creative, and you're asking a lot of people to help support. And most of that, a lot of that lies on the parents, and so we're incredibly blessed here with our resources here at West Point and what they provide us to really get a program to the top, and that you just don't have that at Division III. But the athlete level, you're definitely going to have some more dedicated guys that want to make this their career at the Division I level. But the passion for the sport and competing, if you coach them up the right way, and that was my expectations. And when I coached, is when I took over at Heidelberg and there wasn't much going on, my expectations were really high for them, and they rose to it. They rose to it pretty quickly, and that's why we had a lot of success in a short period of time. And I think that's maybe a little bit of the difference between, some people's perceptions and there's a big difference. And I think really it's just the expectations you have.
Sure.
Yeah. So when you first came on, about 3 years ago, I'm asking about, what do you guys know about this? Asking other friends in the community, because I was a little bit out of touch of wrestling. I felt like everybody that I talked to knew who you were. And everybody's like, yeah, Ned Shuck. Oh yeah, I know him well. He's always you were known as like behind the scenes, like doing all the work. Known as a great recruiter. What would you attribute, that kind of like legacy that that you've kind of earned throughout your coaching, the last 12, 13 years?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of everything, right? I mean, I think, it's good to hear that's the perception out there. Obviously you like to hear, positive things, said about yourself. And so it's really encouraging to hear that that was kind of your perception, hearing from people. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, every interaction that you have, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of, you mentioned, hey, you're known for a successful recruiter, and that's a big part of what I do. And I love that part. And recruiting really, I do believe, is everything you do. I mean, every phone call, every interaction you have with a parent, right? You're telling your story, you're telling who you are, what you're about, what you'd like to do for their son, and how it's a match, and and trying to pull that all together to see, is this the right fit all the way across the board? And I think from the people that interact with me and get to know me, I think they probably know, hey, he's a man of honor and integrity, and does things the right way, and it's not going to treat me wrong or treat my kid wrong or anything like that. I think that the track record is there for that, and I think people appreciate that. And, just anybody that's had the opportunity to see me on the mat and coaching, knows that, hey, this guy knows his stuff on the mat too. And so I think it's a lot of me just getting out there, to be honest with you. I have a lot of years of me not getting paid to do what I was doing. You mentioned the Minnesota Storm stuff. Like I never, I worked Minnesota Storm. That was all volunteer stuff. I went to their practices, every week, worked the summer teams, the cadet and junior teams, and was at all those practices. And I mean, that was all stuff that, we got thrown a little bit of money, for the Fargo trip for a little bit of meal money, but I mean, that was nothing, right? And I think for me, I never expected it either, right? I knew that I was trying to make an impact. I was trying to make a difference in a lot of people's lives, and those lives first started with those high school kids, and then it was, the next team that I was a part of and whatever. And so I think that's just kind of all my mentality is I'm trying to be world class, you know. And that, I mean, I think that's what part of what fit in so well with West Point is this is the epitome of world class in every way, right? And so I think that's probably a little bit of the part of the reputation, but I'd be interested to hear a little bit more what you have heard from people, I guess. But I'm glad to hear that the reputation is good.
So how did you end up at West Point? How did that conversation go where all of a sudden you're the assistant coach? And maybe talk through at the same time what your perception was of West Point versus what it is now.
Yeah. So perception before even having the opportunity was obviously I knew it was an elite institution, right? I knew it as a military academy. I knew there was a lot of history, but the reality, I wasn't a huge history buff. So if anybody quizzed me on any of that stuff, I definitely wouldn't be able to come up with the right answers there. But I just knew it was a really storied place that, really built incredible people. And so from that standpoint, I knew nothing but good, but I didn't know any of the details of that, of what that really meant, what that really looked like. And so that's definitely obviously changed now being here. But how I came to be in this position, was just being connected with Coach Ward, by a fellow colleague that, knew that for me, my time at Whitewater was looking for something a little bit different after my experience there. I had loved my time there. Things were going really well. If it didn't work out at West Point, I was going to really enjoy the next year with that team and continue to build that program. But once I got connected with Coach Ward, and was able to speak with him on the phone and through interview process and meet some other people, come here for that process and meet some of the guys and talk with them, talk with some of the alums. It was just really, for me, it was a no-brainer at that time. And when I was given the opportunity to be here and was chosen for that, I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. I got to take this. And so, but yeah, perception now and how that's changed. Yeah, now it's like I get to hear all the cool stories that you guys are telling on the podcast. That's those things are awesome to hear some of the details I didn't know from some of those guys. And the alumni base is absolutely just, incredible. What they've gone on to do and how successful they've been in their life, whether it be in the military or outside in the civilian world, is just absolutely incredible. And so, the people I get to interact with on a day-to-day basis is, I don't know if there's another environment. If there is, I would definitely challenge that about the people we get to interact with. And so, I love that, saying about the people you surround yourself with is who you are, and I think for me, it's, well, I'm in a good spot then because I'm around some great people, not just amongst our wrestling staff, but just everybody here at West Point.
Sure.
Yeah. You're saying, West Point's a very traditional place. There's a lot of West Point isms. So you're coming in as a civilian, what's one of the more peculiar things about West Point, in your opinion, that you've seen through the years?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of really cool, unique things about West Point for sure. I love hearing some of this, Coach D'Angelo is he's super history buff. So he'll give me little tidbits and tell me, oh, did you know this about West Point? And so that stuff's really cool. Hearing some of that. And then there's a few myths out there too, some legends, that are cool to hear. But I think that the biggest thing that is, is interesting to me is just how many acronyms there are. It's crazy, the number of acronyms that are thrown out there and our guys are just there who, and so just listen to them talk about, and they can literally use full sentences only using acronyms, I'm full of questions from what does that stand for again? What is that, but yeah, that to me was a new language, so that's definitely something that's interesting and something I didn't experience anywhere else.
I can definitely understand how that would be confusing. So if I'm 17 years old and you're sitting in my living room, what is the Ned Shuck recruiting pitch you're going to give me?
Yeah. So, for you, it would be I think it'd be a little bit easier pitch. You were a hammer in high school and, and it was a good fit that way. It'd be really easy. Maybe, I don't know how much you knew about West Point going into it, but that's a big part of what we have to communicate. Sitting down in front of somebody is, what is West Point really? And a lot of people are in similar boat with that one. Hey, they know it's a top school. They know it's one of the best schools in the world. But most people, to be honest, they don't know the details of what it really looks like. And there's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of, I heard it's like this, or I heard it's like that. And so there's just that communicating to them about what that's like. And so obviously our story is really easy to tell. It's a lot of fun to be able to, tell recruits about, what our alums have gone on to do, and what they're going to be able to experience in their time here as a wrestler. It's easy to sell the success that we're having in the program. The records that we're breaking for the program. Having 2 seasons, like we mentioned before, with 7 national qualifiers. This year, really feeling like, hey, some of those guys are going to punch into the All-American status. Like, just seeing the trajectory and showing them, hey, look what we started with and where we're at now and where we're going. I think for kids, it's easy to get excited about that. They want to be on that climb to the top. And, we're landing some top-ranked recruits, if you will, now, because it's a little bit more visible. It's a little bit easier for them to see that. And, so it catches people's eye a little bit more. But West Point is always going to have a brand of excellence. And, and so when you're talking to, a high-level kid that you want to be a part of the program, you're trying to figure out that too. Is this the type of kid that's looking for that as well? Mm-hmm. Is he looking for, to be great in everything he does, or is it he just wants to be a really good wrestler, and the outside of the other stuff doesn't really matter to him? That's not really going to be a fit for us. We're looking for people that want to be great, want to be great men and want to be great people and want to be great at everything they do, not just be an awesome wrestler. You're definitely going to be an awesome wrestler here, and we got the backing to show that. But there's a lot that goes into the pitch, and a lot of it is that relationship building, knowing who they are, what they're looking for, and being able to tell them that story about, where they're going to see that here and where they're going to be able to experience that here at West Point. The type of team they're going to be a part of, that's an easy sell, with the brotherhood that we have. And that's obviously really clear. That's one of the things that, not being able to have them here on campus to see our team interact like that is a lot. That's one of the things we miss out on, because every kid that comes here on a visit is able to see that. So, man, these guys are super tight, super close, and it's hard not to want to be part of that, right? Everybody likes that atmosphere. Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely, like, if you can just get someone to get there and maybe like put aside some of their initial public perceptions and misconceptions specifically, it's like, wow, look at this campus. This is amazing. This is beautiful. Look at this opportunity. You sit in the class and you're like, wow, look at this one-on-one opportunity to have with, these small class sizes and this education. Then you meet the team and you're like, holy cow. And then you see the wrestling room, the coaching stuff, and it all makes sense. But if you don't ever take that step to go and see it, I think a lot of people are really doing a disjustice to themselves and not at least seeing what it has to offer. But
yeah, no doubt.
Unbiased opinion for sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and you're 100% right. I mean, obviously, guys, and obviously a recruit's probably not going to tell me this, but I'd be hard pressed, I think, to find anybody that said, hey, we went on the West Point visit, and it was just a waste of my time. I mean, everybody knows when they come here, whether they choose to be here long term or not with us, man, that was a really, really cool, experience to be able to see what it is and what it's really about, and to meet the coaches and see why, we've been able to be so successful at developing our wrestlers and recruiting high level kids to come here. I think it's easy for them to see. And yeah, so that's, it's tough when a little bit harder when we can't get them here, but yeah, we're thankful for some social media and some of those pieces where now, a little bit easier to expose them.
Yeah.
Often you get pushback from like parents. So like we may have some recruits of parents that listen in or, come across this, how often do you get them, and what do you share with parents who may have, my mom was apprehensive about me going to West Point because it was a time of war, and how often does it come up, and how do you address those, for any listeners who may be concerned about that?
Yeah, I mean, it comes up all the time. Parents are definitely, they want to talk about that, and we want to talk about it. We want to be transparent, and everything we're doing. And so we want to let them know about the opportunities that are here and what that would look like for their son, no matter what path he takes within the military and within the 17 different paths that he can take while he's here, And so ultimately, it's walking them through some of those things and showing them those opportunities and what does it really look like, what they see in Hollywood probably is a little bit different than reality. Not probably, it is a lot different than what they see in reality, right?
Absolutely.
And so, if they get an opportunity to talk to, our guys on the team when they're here on a visit, that's great, because they can hear it from them firsthand. I didn't go here to West Point, and so, from my perspective, it's everything that I'm hearing and everything I know about it, and the people that I trust in, that told me those things. But when they get a chance to hear it from somebody firsthand, obviously we have a huge, nationwide, worldwide exposure for people all over the place. Oh yeah, I know somebody that went to West Point. We hear that a lot. Yeah, I know so-and-so's dad went to West Point and he loved it, and so we get a lot of that, which is really helpful. Kind of just that initial understanding that, yeah, this is going to be an amazing experience for your son. And yeah, part of that is breaking down, hey, what does the details look like? What are those initial concerns they have, about the military side of things, and showing them the opportunity, on the military side of things, I think is a big part of what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. So kind of tying that all together, Ned, in your opinion, what's it going to take to make Army a top 10 program?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think we're there. I think we're in that position where we're competing for that right now. And obviously, we're not just trying to shoot to be, top 10. I mean, we're looking to continue climbing every year. What we'll need to continue to do from our side of things, what we're responsible as a coaching staff is to keep winning, right? And in order for us to do that, we have to recruit really well. We have to get kids that fit the bill, great kids, great students, but are tough as all heck, and the rest of them, they want to get after it, and they want to compete for national championships. So, we're those recruiting classes that we're pulling in now, and we'll continue to pull in, will be a big part of that. Ultimately, the better recruiting classes, the better I look as a coach. In terms of, hey, look how I coach this kid up. And he was already one of the top kids in the country, and so it makes our job a little bit easier. But also, I think, what Coach Ward has already done, in this entire time here, what we've done the last few years I've been here, has really maximized the potential of our guys. Looking at what does that take? What does it look like for a 125-pounder or or heavyweight? Those are different paths, right? Those are different things that need different training, needs different mental approaches, everything. Everything that goes into building a man, to personal mastery for them, right? And to gain, as fast as they possibly can and accelerate as fast as they can. That takes a lot of different approaches to make that happen. And so it's our job, it's our responsibility to develop them. And, like I said, I think we're there, man. I think we're on our way, and we'll continue to be on a consistent basis now with great recruiting, great development, great training, and great opportunities for them. So I'm really excited for our future. It's easy to be excited about it, obviously. Given the success we had, it would have been really, really cool to see us finish up this last year of national tournament. So, that was a bummer, no doubt. But yeah, man, we're moving on to the next thing, and we're really excited about this year's team.
So I'm trying to put some math together. So if you've been there 3 years, is the class of 2020, was that your first year you recruited, or is the upcoming class?
So I'm going into my third season.
Okay.
So
it's the juniors
recruited last 2 years. So yeah. So it's exciting to see the kids from prep school coming in, and direct kids that we have coming in. Where I had a extended process of recruiting throughout. So that was a lot of fun. We got a really cool crew coming in. So.
Bureau's got an interesting question here that I'm gonna let him ask, because It's going to
All
tick
right.
somebody off.
Who was your favorite wrestler in the class of 2020?
Oh man. Here's an easy one. It was CJ Morgan, right? And we're all well aware of everything that happened there, but I'll tell you why. As a coach, you're not supposed to have favorites, right? You hear that all the time. You're not supposed to have favorites. You're not supposed to have favorites. Well, I tell my guys, hey, I got all kinds of favorites. The guys that show up with a great attitude, work their butts off every day, and do everything they can to make themselves great. Those are my favorites. And we got a team full of them, so it's really cool that way. But you may have seen the shirts. I'm sure you have. The Everybody Love Everybody. One love. I think from CJ, we've learned about legacy. I know I've learned a lot about what your legacy is, and so from that standpoint, my favorite is just the way he was, who he was, what he was about. That he truly embodied a great man in every way, and he was one heck of a wrestler too. So that was a lot of fun. But man, we had a hammer of a class in 2020, and so and even some of the guys that didn't get to start at the EIWA championships. Look at some of those guys that we had, like Luke Hodson, who had some great wins. Had a win over Weiler from Lehigh. It's like those guys were right there, and that kid was a hammer. And so we had a bunch of guys that were just huge at the trajectory of this program. We're here every step of the way, never losing the Navy. Those things were. What this class did was absolutely incredible, and so we're thankful that we get a chance to we get a little piece of a lot of them still here as they are able to continue being here for a little bit before they go off to the first post. But what an incredible class. We got another one coming up right behind it, so we're excited about that.
Right on. I got one last question, unless you got anything else after that. But do you have a most memorable, funny, or greatest moment so far since you've been at Army?
Oh,
anything that really sticks out?
Man, there's been a lot of funny moments. The team is great. Just in terms of knowing how to be lighthearted and have a good time and work and be serious when it's time to work. I love that about our team. And so there's probably too hard to pick.
You mean they're not a bunch of robots?
Yeah. No, it'll take you about 2 seconds to walk into our restroom room before practice starts to recognize, the personalities and how many, we got a big roster, obviously. And so it's really cool to see all the different personalities interacting with each other and guys giving each other a hard time and supporting each other all at the same time. So that's cool. A most memorable moment, the first year, at the NCAA tournament, was just cool. And it wasn't necessarily like, hey, one of the big wins that maybe you've seen on, Coach Ward breaking down on the match breakdowns he's been doing on Instagram. And we had some really, really strong wins there, some, upset victories. But it was just that overall, hey, we're here. This is West Point, and for me, it was just a really cool moment for me to be a part of. I got to kind of tag along, right? A lot of the work had been done before I even showed up, but to be able to be in that moment and share in some of those things where these guys have stepped up and seen 7 guys in the national tournament, people coming up to you and saying, man, you guys were top, man. Great win. Just that was a really cool moment for me. And partly because, it was my first tournament as a Division I coach, right? I've been to that tournament, a number of years, right? I'd go out and I'd seek Division I. I used to go to the Midlands tournament all the time when I was coaching Division III, just to be there and to be around it and to learn, and knowing that was going to be my career. I knew that was going to be my career. At some level, I was going to be coaching Division I. And so to have that first moment, being there, because there's a lot of moments sitting in the stands where I was thinking, man, this is going to be fun. This is, this is going to be fun. When I get the opportunity to coach, whenever, God gives me that opportunity, it's going to be awesome. And so that was for me probably the coolest moment as a coach, just reflecting on the national tournament and having a blast there with our guys.
It's awesome. Well, you got anything else?
I got nothing. The dog here.
You got anything else you want the people to know, Coach?
Yeah, man. Just make sure you're keeping track of West Point Wrestling, man. We're doing some great things and having a lot of fun doing it. And it's easy to follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Social media platforms are usually pretty active, and so you can find out what's going on with the team. You can see what's going on with our guys individually and what we're doing in competitions and all that. So get a little bit more of a sneak peek of what's going on with our program. But we'll just encourage anybody that's out there, any recruits that are out there that are listening and think, hey, maybe this is for me. Definitely reach out to me and shoot me an email, give me a call, and I'd love to chat with you about West Point and what we have to offer and see if it's a fit. But appreciate what you guys are doing, man. It's been really cool. Listen to the episodes. I was kind of hoping when you did get around to asking me that we were going to be at, glazed over, and I was going to be, being able to. I was a little jealous of Coach Ward that he got to experience that as the host location. But this place is pretty cool too. But no, thank you guys for doing that. Keep telling stories. I love listening to them, and appreciate all the work. And Bhaw.
Appreciate having you on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Coach.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bhaw Radio Show. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. If there's something you'd like to hear on a future show, reach out to us on any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Or you can reach us at email, bhaw.radio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and as always, go Army, be Navy.